All right, it is time to do another Shannon Reads Those Books book review, sort of, kind of, not really. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm continuing on with my catch-up book reviews for my Those Books exploration and other projects that I'm doing. See disclaimer video up above for this, that they're not traditional book reviews and they aren't very well researched. I'm just feeling I was very stagnated in this project and I wanted to breathe some new life to it, and I needed to talk about some of the books that I had read but never talked about. So these ones are a little bit different. If you're unfamiliar with the Shannon Reads Those Books project, it is something I started back in 2014, where I put together several lists of different books, including classic works, iconic works, highly referenced books, influential books, and zeitgeist books as well. And the goal of the project was to get a greater cultural context for things that are often referenced from books, as well as to increase my reading comprehension. So that was sort of like the idea behind the project, and so I've been doing it ever since. Some years I read tons of books, some years I don't read so many books, and we'll see how many I end up reading this year. And this book is the first book that I read for the project in 2019, and that is My Antonia by Willa Cather. And this book is, so it is the 44th book that I've read for the Those Books exploration. It was released in 1918, and it makes the list for being the 27th on the Librarians list. And I read it through January and February 2018 or 2019. We're in 2019 now, Shannon. Live in the now. And I gave this title 8.5 out of 10. I did enjoy it. It was, so if you're unfamiliar with this book, it was, well, all of that data stuff. It is a prairie set book in Nebraska. It's actually the third in a trilogy. I don't think you have to read them all. I hope not, because I didn't. It's noted, Wikipedia says it is noted as, I can't remember if they said the best in the trilogy or considered the best of her works generally. This is the first time I've read Willa Cather. Yeah, so, and I read it because I think it was an unwrapping. Yeah, it was an unwrapping, so that's why I read it. Lots of those books are wrapped up. Oh yeah, lots of them. Lots. I guess that's how I choose most of them these days. So one of the questions that I have for myself when I look back at these books is, did I understand it? And I would have to say wholeheartedly, yes, I did understand it. This follows a boy named Jim as he moves across country a little bit at least, and ends up living with a separate part of his family and in a farming community area in Nebraska, and he is sort of like neighbors with Ántonia and Antonia's family, and she actually comes across at the same time as him, and they are from, well, the term that they always use is that they are from Bohemia, or that they are Bohemian, and I wasn't sure if that is a okay thing to say, but on Wikipedia it doesn't say anything otherwise, so I hope it's okay. And it is part of the Czech Republic. So, and I wasn't sure where it was when I read the book, like where they, I knew it was Europe, but I wasn't sure more specifically where it was. Like there were some sensibilities and like some of the joie de vivre that gave an idea of where it could be. In terms of Antonia has a quite a joie de vivre that I felt, and yeah, so it's interesting. This one's hard to talk about without being spoilery, so I don't know when I'll go into spoilers, or if I'll go into spoilers, because like it's weird because it's called My Antonia, but it's from the perspective of Jim, and a lot of the time she's not that, like she's not, like there could be a whole section or whole chapters where she's not part of it, like it's saying Jim's story. So I was a little surprised at the title and like what the context was and was going to be. There's obviously, a strong bond between them. They have been friends ever since they were little kids. She's a bit older than him, and she has a very strong independent spirit, and she works in the fields when it becomes necessary to do that. That was not very done at the time by women, and is not looked well on by other people, but she did what she had to do. And that's one of the things that I loved about her character, is that she did what she needed to do. She enjoyed the things that she needed to enjoy, or not needed to enjoy. She enjoyed the things that she enjoyed, and she didn't make excuses, and she didn't feel like she was not overly impacted by other people's perspective of her, which I really appreciate. So, but I do still feel like it's weird because we because mostly we follow Jim. But you're really like, especially because of the title being what it was, you're really thinking about Antonia. So there were lots of touching moments in this story. There were I think I cried maybe more than once. Yeah, more than once. Oh, I'm getting teary just thinking about it. And so I can say, this leads into if I enjoyed it, and I would say that yes, I did. There were some things that I wasn't sure if this is how we would talk about things now, but it is 100 years later since this was written, and it looks like everything's okay. And I never felt like there was any like I never felt like there was none of the content of the book felt like there was anything slighting other people or anything like that. I just was like, oh, is that the term that we would use now? So I felt like there was quite especially with Jim's character, like there was a fair, actually there was, especially early in the book, there was a fair amount about talking about cultural differences, and but I thought one of the nice things that it showcased was people talking about them and having different opinions and trying to find where a place where everyone felt comfortable, and it didn't just have to be A or B, that this is right and this is wrong. There were things that were different, even within a sort of greater belief system where there were differences, and I felt that people still were able to mostly come together. And usually the conflicting stuff was for people that were more generally shown as antagonistic characters, which is pretty normal, in stories. So yeah, so that was actually, I thought, impressive, both impressive and touching. And yeah, and so I ended up enjoying it. It was not what I expected at all. I thought it would be, I thought like Antonia would be the main character. I didn't think that we would follow this other person. I did not know where it was going. I did not know how far it would go. It's one that I'm actually glad that I didn't know that much going into, because I don't know if like there's like the one phrase or theme that people think of with this book. Like for some of those books that I've talked about recently, I do feel like there's like the one relationship or the one theme that is like the thing that people know about it, and that can really impact the reading experience. And for this, it's just like every chapter was something new. I had no idea where it was going. And that's what I like, to be at that place with my reading. I like to get the context afterwards, after I've thought about it and tried to think about, oh, what do I think this was about? And I think I don't, and now I'm like, I posed the question, I should answer the question, but I don't know. I feel like this was a sort of like a depiction of life at a particular time and the people in relationships and how they grew over the years, and I thought that was nice. I don't always like stories like that. I think what's coming up a lot in those books reviews is how much I do not read literary fiction, and that is definitely a lot of literary fiction has that sort of, it's about people and relationships. And I'm like, and not that I'm against that, I'm not. I think that's can be one of, if not the most important things in books, but I often like tend to respond more, or you can have that in other genres, in science fiction and fantasy and urban fantasy, but with this one it's really like that's the root of it, is the people in the relationship and a depiction of the time, and the things that they did, and options or that they had, or if there wasn't options. And this one, it does show that sort of limited options, especially for women. But I felt like I enjoyed where it ended up, and I enjoyed what it had to say about that. Like it didn't ignore it. So it was definitely part of the discussion, but it also, maybe because Antonia's character is um, sort of like a no excuses person, and an independent spirit, that it didn't bother me. Not that it I with any that it felt that I appreciated how it was presented and how it was shown throughout the book. So overall, I was actually pretty impressed. And now that I think of, like, one of my other questions I ask is, will I read more from the author? And I actually think that I would. And that makes me think I should have started with the first book. Let me know if you have read other works by Willa Cather, and any recommendations for where else to go, and if it makes sense to go to the first book in the series. I don't know how they're connected. Like, this really starts with Jim as quite young, so and I think the other ones are O Pioneer, and let's see if it has it listed. No, it has chronology of the author's life and historical events. Wow, it's got like 4, 5, 6, 7 pages of the chronology of the author's life and historical significant things. That is not what I expected. And it does have her books. Or other people's books? I don't know. Other people's books. Oh, that's weird. I don't know. Strange. So anyway, I know it's the third in a trilogy, so there's at least 2 other books to look at. And yeah, so I think that actually might get me up to date. Yes! I hope you enjoyed these not so great book reviews. And I look forward to tackling my next book on Those Books exploration as of filming this, and I am pre-filming some of these. So as of filming this, I do not know what that is. By the time this goes up, I could very well have already finished it, which could be very exciting. It's been really quite a journey through this process, and to stick with the project this long, I almost decided to let it go or to revamp it or to something, but I realized that for me, I had the sticky bit was that I hadn't talked about them. And although some of these come up in my Friday Reads videos, I haven't like sat down and talked about one particular book for a very long time. So, but I think it really is helpful, even if it isn't a traditional book review. At least it's helpful to me as a reader to sort of look at what the reading experience was like, and if I wanted to read more from the author, and all of that stuff I found has been very helpful. So I hope they've been enjoyable to watch, and there will be more coming, but not for this one. Makes me up to date, so I don't know what's next. Into the great unknown we go. Thanks for watching.